Hello, and welcome to SharePoint Fundamentals with Learnit. My name is Christina Tedesco, and I will be your instructor for this course. If you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions you want answered by one of our instructors, please join our offsite community. The link is in the description as well. As always, if this course has exercise files, you will find them in the video description below. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so up until now, we've done a lot of work in this library, right? We're in our sales contracts library. We talked about a lot of things in here. We know how to change the view, add information, add an approval process, customize the view settings, everything along those lines. So that's great. But there's another option that SharePoint has to allow you to hold information and review it for yourself and your team members. And we're going to talk about that now. That's something called a list. So in addition to a document library, SharePoint has something called lists that allows you to input information to see very easily and in a very organized fashion the type of detail or the data for an item or a group of items that you may be looking for. So let's create a list and show you how it's valuable to you in your SharePoint site. So I'm going to start here on the home page, okay, where I can be at my highest level to create my assets and my information for my SharePoint site. And you see right here, you have the new option. So right underneath that list over here, where we would be able to make another document library if we wanted to, a page, a post, anything like that along those lines, we're going to create a list from here. So let's just start here to make a new list. And you have a few options right out of the box. So we can make a blank list. We could actually import data from Excel, and we'll look at something like that in a later chapter. We can also make a list from an existing list. Or SharePoint offers some out-of-the-box templates out here that are fairly common for organizations to use to give you some predefined settings and predefined columns to kind of give you a jump start on your list. So we're going to start with a blank list, okay? So we're going to create everything ourselves. We know what we want to do, so we can handle it on our own. So let's just start there. Very simply, to start off, what you need to do is make it a name. Let's say this list is going to hold all of our parts or items that we're selling in our organizations that our salesmen are doing, okay? So this is going to be an inventory of our parts that we have in our company that the salesmen are selling. Okay, let's just say it's that. So we're going to call this name parts inventory. And the description is inventory of parts available for sale. I like that. Available for sale. All right. Now, you have an option here to show it your navigation. Over here on the side, I'm going to say yes, because that's going to make it much easier for my teammates to find what I'm creating for them. And I'm going to click Create. Okay, so out of the box, here's what you get. It's not much, but we're going to add on to this. So this is my new list. Everything's blank. I got nothing in here so far. A title column is by default something that's required for SharePoint. This column is the primary column that's used for searching and indexing, so it's absolutely required. Now, a title is not a good description for the column, so you are free to change this to be whatever you want it to be to make it more relevant to what you want to put in here, but it's not a column that you can remove from your list, okay? So let's use it to the best of advantage. So we're going to rename this to part name, okay? That makes more sense to me, all right? And I'm going to add a couple columns here to get some more information. Let's say I want to add every part's got a number. So let's put a number against that part. Okay, and it tells you some defaults you can pick here depending on the data type. I'm just going to keep everything default and just keep it simple. All right, let's add another column. I'm going to call this the part description. Okay, it can be a single line of text. And you can see this process that I'm going is exactly the same as we did in the document library. So this should be fairly familiar to you if you listen to our other chapter on modifying views in libraries. Okay, I'm just going to pick on my defaults here. And let's add 2 more columns. I want to know when it's available from and when it's available to, because let's say not all parts are available throughout the entire year. So I'm going to make this a date and time. I'm going to say available from. Part is from this date. And yep, I want a date and time. I don't want the time on here. I just need the date. No default values. I'm fine with that. And then we're going to do another column. We're going to say it's available to. All right, let's say part is available to this date. Okay, no default value. Okay, that's cool. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now that we've created our list, let's put some records in this list. All right, so we're in here, we're in the right spot. We're just going to say new. Part name, this is a widget. Part number is 0001. Let's call it 1001. Part description is widget. Very descriptive. It's available from 1st of November to the end of November. Save that. Another part. This is going to be a Wonkit. Part number 20002. Part description. Wonkit for Wonkit. Available from, and this is going to be available from the 14th to 17th. And one last one. You guys get the idea here. This is going to be a thingy. Part number 2. Oh, let's make this 4. Part description. Thingy. Majiggy. Available from November 30th to the end of the year. All right, cool. So you can see right now you have your items here, and you can, make some modifications. Like, for example, this part number, maybe I don't want these commas in here. Right? I mean, I don't want my numbers to look like that. It's just a regular number. So let's go into column settings. Let's edit this. And let's go into more options, and let's take that away so that looks better. There we go. That's more like what I want to see. Everything else looks okay. I like my dates. I have my description. This is all the information that I need to see. So this is good. Also, what you can see here are the same options that are in the library. We can sort this. We can create groups. We can edit this view. We can save the view. So you have the same options here that you had in your library to be able to customize this view and see this information that's easiest for you. All right. So in this lesson, we did 2 things. We created a list and we added records to a list. We looked at other list templates that SharePoint has to offer out of the box. We started with a blank one, we created our columns, we customized our columns, and we added in our information. All right, thank you very much for joining me in this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, in the last chapter, we talked about lists and how to create them and add content. I want to show you one valuable feature that SharePoint has called linked lists. That's really handy to put in a set of default bookmarks, say for your organization or your team, to make information really easy to find. So we're going to do that in this chapter. So in my communications team site here, starting from the home page, to create a linked list that's already predefined by SharePoint, it's a little bit different than making a new list. This is actually an app, okay? So we're going to add this app into our site and create some customized bookmarks with some URLs to make information really easy to find for our team members. So from here, we're going to start in the same spot. We're going to start in new, and we're going to actually pick app. And if you remember in prior lessons, we were here before, And what we want to do is go into the SharePoint store and start from the classic experience to see all the applications that are available to us. So in the site contents, in the Your Apps default page, you get here, again, the list of apps that we can add. So all we're going to do is we're going to search for the app called Links. There we go. And right up here, here it is, basic links. This is going to give me a list with columns that are already set up specifically for links. All right, so let me click on that. And I'm going to use this for making bookmarks for my site. So I'm going to name this bookmark. And I get right in here. It's added to my contents. You can see here the type of information it is. It's a link list. It's called bookmark. Let's go in here and see what's going on. So I have two columns here by default. My first one is URL. My next one is notes, and I can add in any more columns that I want to. Now what I want to do here is add in a few items or a few URLs to make some specific content really easy for my users to find. So let's just say I want to let them do searches on the internet and define for them, the search engines that are the best for them to use. Let's just say that. So we're just going to keep it simple, and we're going to put in Google. Give it some alt text. And give it notes, which can be our description. Search with Google. And I'm going to save that. I didn't like what I typed because I probably didn't type it the most correct way that I could. So let me make sure I do that. And I'm actually going to paste the URL in here. There we go. It likes that. Okay. And then right here, it's a link right away. It links to Google. And let's put in another one. We'll do Microsoft Bing on here. And I'm going to get smart. And I'm going to paste it in from the get-go. Okay. Search with Bing. Actually, link to Bing and search with Bing. Boom. There it is. Okay. So now right away in here from this list, I can just click in here. I can get to exactly where I need to be, get right into the landing page that you want your users to be able to get to. Really easy way to create a URL link list in here by SharePoint. Now, something like this is really handy dandy to have like on your home page for your most relevant content that you want to show your users. We'll be creating pages and adding content to those pages in future chapters. And this link list is one web part that we'll be adding in there. All right. So I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson, and thanks for taking this one. Okay, in this chapter, we're going to stay on lists. We're going to talk about another type of list that is actually very useful called a task list, all right? And you'll see the difference on how this comes out of the box from SharePoint as opposed to the links list and custom list that we created. Again, this is something that's very useful to help your organization organize content and kind of track a to-do list with the things that you have to do for your team or your group. So let's do that. So in my communications team site, again, starting from the same spot. This also is a predefined application, so we wouldn't do this in list, we would do this in apps. So we were just here. I know you're very familiar with this process, so we're just going to click right into the classic experience, and we're going to search on task. It's actually right here, right up top. So it's kind of one of noteworthy apps, as SharePoint calls it, one that's frequently used and most popular that users frequent to put in their SharePoint site. So we don't have to search for it. It's right here. This is exactly what we want. So this is great. Okay. So I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to call this my salesman's task list. So let's say these salesmen have to do some specific things, right? So I want to make sure that this is organized and I'm keeping track of everything that everybody needs to do. So I'm going to call this salesman task list. And I'm going to create. Okay, so again, I'm defaulted to my site contents, and down here, You can see the salesman task list was created. Type is task list. It's got its own specific icon in here because it's got some specific information already predefined for it. So let's take a look and see what that's all about, okay? So you can see this looks a little bit different, right? I have a lot of detail on here that I can see right out of the box. So by default, I have on here a timeline that I can track tasks against. I can search in here to find an item. By default, I have the task name, the due date, and who it's assigned to. Now, if you think that this view looks a little bit different than our other lists and libraries, you're right. This is actually what's known as a classic view in SharePoint, and this application was created with the classic templates that SharePoint had before it went into the modern sites. Now, that's okay. We're still able to use it in our modern site. We just see that extra detail that was created for us when this application was implemented by SharePoint. So let's add a new task in here, okay? So I'm going to click on new task. Task name is going to be upload latest contracts. Okay, because it's something that I need the team to do to make sure that I have all the information for what they're selling. And I want this person to start this on Monday. And I'm going to ask him to have it done by Friday. Okay. Now, who do you want to do this task? You have to assign it to someone. I'm going to give this to Tony. Right. And when you start typing in the name, the user has to have access to the site, obviously. So the resource will show in the drop down when you start typing for what the match is. Select them. And I'm going to say save. All right, so here's my due date. Here is who it's assigned to, and here's what the task is. Now, I also want to make a task for myself. And that's going to be to review contracts. Okay, let's say I need to make sure that I set myself a reminder to do that. And I'm going to make sure I start that on the 15th, and I'm going to need to really finish that by the 18th, okay? I'm going to assign this to myself. Okay, now for some reason I'm not coming up here in the assigned to list. That's okay. We'll just leave this blank. And I'll fill it in when I'm able to get the right address of the right person. Let's say, we'll say it like that, okay? Okay, so I have two tasks here. So this is great, and I want to add them to this timeline so I can really see very simply who's got to do what when. So click on those action buttons. You see some detail, who it's assigned to, how many days it's due from right now. You can open it to look at it. You can create a subtask underneath that'll give you kind of a hierarchy. If I want to get more specific, let's try that really quick. And I want to say upload TGY contract. Let's just say that's a company that I really want to make sure that he sees that. And I want this to happen sooner than 6 days from now. I want this to happen, let's say, on the 4th. And Tony's got to do this also. All right, that's great. Now, you can see here, it's a subtask underneath the major one. So it's something else that he has to do that has a shorter time frame. So I'm going to add this task to my timeline. I have it on there. And I'm going to add this task to my timeline also, so that I can see when that one's due as well. So this one's giving me an error message, probably because it says it was due on Thursday and today's the 6th. So it's a day that's before the days that I'm creating this. So I can see right away that there's something that I need to fix. Okay, fine. We're going to give Tony until the 9th to do that. All right, SharePoint likes that much better. That's great. That's very helpful. And I now have an accurate date to get for my list item that's underneath the main item that Tony has to do for both of these tasks. All right. Okay, so some more options that we have on here is we have a calendar view. This is really handy dandy to see in a calendar view what the tasks are. You can click in here and see the details, what the dates are that they're from or to. So that looks great. We can also see here what tasks have been completed if there have been any. We don't have any completed yet, so I don't see anything in there also. But this is really a great out-of-the-box setup that SharePoint offers to let you create lists specifically for your resources, to show tasks that they have to get done, and then keep all your information organized. Now you can see here for some reason my date change didn't save. No, that's okay. We'll just make sure that we do it right this time. So let's edit this item. And let's go back in here and put back in the 9th and make sure we save it. And good. Now we're good to go. All right, so we talked about lists. We created a task list in SharePoint. This is a really great feature that they have here to make tasks really organized and easy to find. We talked about making the task list in the site. We created some tasks. We looked at the calendar view to show how you can see when the tasks are due based by calendar date. And we added some of those tasks to the timeline. So I hope you guys found this useful. SharePoint, again, has a lot of really great out-of-the-box applications already built to organize information. I think this covers everything that we need to know about tasks for right now. What we'll talk about next is pages in SharePoint, how to create pages, customize that information, making sure, again, you're showing the most relevant content to your user base. Thanks very much for listening to this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, welcome back. All right, there's actually one more thing I want to talk about on lists in SharePoint. One way that we can create a list is to upload the list from an Excel spreadsheet or an Excel file. And that's really handy since you more than likely have the information you want in a list in an Excel sheet. You just want to now put it on your SharePoint site so you can share it with the rest of your team. So let's talk through how to make that happen. Starting from the home page in the communications team site that we have, we're going to start in the same spot, select new, and we're going to go into list this time to create a list from Excel. Okay, so the option's right here up top. It's very easy to find. Now, before we do this, a couple things you need to know to make sure that your Excel spreadsheet is set up correctly. So I'm going to show you here the sheet that we're going to be uploading. I'm going to put in some customers for my salesman on my site. Here's my sheet. I just need to make sure it's formatted as a table, all right? Because SharePoint is going to upload the information in a table format. So right here on the home ribbon for my Excel, I'm using Excel desktop, you can see right here, format as table. It gives you some formatting options. We really don't care. I'm just going to pick this one. Yes, my table has headers, and yes, I'm confirming the range that I want to make it into a table. I'm going to say okay. You can see the view kind of change a little bit, and now this spreadsheet in this customer's workbook is set up as a table. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. So I'm going to make sure I save this, and I close out of here. And now it's ready to be uploaded as a SharePoint list. So let's do that. So from Excel, it's going to ask me to upload my file. And it's loading the tables. Here's my table. And here is a preview of the information. I'm just going to scan it, make sure that it looks right. You can see up here it defaults to the data type right on top of the column header. If you wanted to change it, you could. You can see right here, the very first column is always going to be referenced as the title column. Remember, we talked about title column. It's the one that SharePoint really needs. It's going to be the search and index column for your list. So it's using customer ID, which is perfect. That's my unique identifier for this spreadsheet. So that works out perfectly. If that didn't work out perfectly, you can change it. So you can change that title to be another column reference in your SharePoint spreadsheet. Generally, best practice, you always want to make it the first column in your spreadsheet, just FYI, okay? All right, so I think everything else looks good. These are single line of text. Yep, I'm okay with that. And that looks fine. Postal codes, I could change his number, but let's leave it as text for right now. Phone number, again, same thing. Maybe I wanted to format this as something else. I have a couple of options here. I'm going to let it upload as is and then make any customizations I need once it gets into SharePoint, okay? All right, so I'm good with this. So let's just say next. Here's our name. So it kind of gave it this funky name because it made like an online copy of this. So we want to fix that, right? So we just want to say customers. I just want to call it customers. That's it. And I'm just going to call this active customers. And I do want to show this in my site navigation, so I'm good with that. So let's create. So depending how big your list is, obviously it may take more than a few seconds. Here it is. I'm right here in the list, right when it's uploaded. Hey, this looks pretty nice, right? I like this. I have my titles here, my names, my contact names, my addresses. This is my all items view. I have everything in here. This is fantastic. Okay, so boom, that was really easy. Okay, right? I went in here, I found my spreadsheet, I uploaded in. Here's all my columns. I have all the same options to sit there and sort it and group by. I can edit it. I can format the column. I can do everything I can do in a regular list. All right, so I hope you found this helpful. Here's a really easy way to create a list with a predefined template or table in your Excel workbook. So this makes creating lists much easier. Thanks very much for listening to this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back. Okay, in this chapter, I want to talk about how SharePoint integrates with Microsoft Office programs. So one thing that Microsoft does really well is talk to other Microsoft programs really well. So the way SharePoint works is everything you see and capture in your SharePoint site, you can also use seamlessly with your Office 365 applications. And we're going to show that in this chapter. Okay, so let's take a look at one of our SharePoint sites. So starting here from my home page in my SharePoint collection, I'm going to look at this site I have here, Team STECT. So let's just go in here and see what we have. Not a lot of content yet, just the default setup, and that's fine. Over here on the left-hand side in your nav bar, you can see a few predefined links for communications and collaborations here right on the home page of the site. Now, you can see here, if I go into conversations and I click in there, I'm automatically taken into the web version of Outlook to pull in what kind of communications I have in there. So when this comes up, this is going to show me all my emails and all my groups and links to my other Office applications here directly from the SharePoint site. Now you can see here I have a group that is the same name as the SharePoint site. SharePoint integrates with groups and teams to make sure the same resources have access to the same information across all of your Office 365 applications. So you can see here, if I click in here, I have this one email in here that just was an alert that my group was created. And you can see here, if I look in my actual desktop Office application, and I click on that same group that's already integrated into Outlook because it's been created on a SharePoint site that I have access to, I see that same email right here. Now I can communicate through either one of these application interfaces. I can send an email here from Outlook if I'm doing my emails, or I can come in here in the Outlook web client that was initiated through SharePoint and do the same thing. Okay, now if I send that off, I pretty much just send it to myself. So if I look in my email from my Outlook client, there it is. I can see it here. I got it. And this same information is in the sent folder here that came from the web client that was opened up through SharePoint. Now, if I wanted to send it to the group, I could do that as well. So this is the team. Here's my test. Do a quick refresh. There it is there. And then in my Outlook client, obviously I have the same information. Okay, so this is a very, very simple demonstration on how Outlook for communications is integrated into your SharePoint site through the conversation link that's on your default homepage. Now, another handy feature here is for the calendars in Outlook also. So if I navigate back to my SharePoint site, and let's see if I have a calendar application set up here. Yes, I do. Great. If I go into my calendar that's managed on my SharePoint site, and I sync this to my Outlook by just creating the sync link from the calendar ribbon in the application on the SharePoint site, what happens is, in my Outlook application, the information is synced from when I enter a new event or a meeting in my SharePoint calendar to what has to be shown or what I can see in my Outlook application. So super simple example. Let's just go in here and add a test event. And I'm just going to save it here. Okay, so that's for today, which is Friday, November 12th at 10:11. That's a test event. Let me go over here to my Outlook and let me just do a quick refresh. Some connections may be faster than others. Oh, there it is. It was hiding. Okay, so there it is. There's my event that I created from the same calendar that I did through SharePoint on the website. So this works for more than just Outlook for calendars and email messages. The same integrations hold true for Excel and Word and your other Office applications. And I decide I want to get back into my SharePoint site. So I'm going to go there for my calendar. Let's get back into our Team STE site. What else do I have going on in here? Let's see. I want to go into someone else. I got to do my little approval here. Okay, now if I go in here, I have some documents in here. I have this workbook. If I open this up, obviously I get right into the online version of Excel, right? I can go in here and I can do whatever I want. But also, if I go into my regular Excel on my desktop, outside of SharePoint, all right, so I just brought this up, and if I want to go into find something, here's my sites right here, okay? So here's my OneDrive, here's my website. If I click on that, here's a whole list of teams I have access to, which is another Microsoft application that works with the collaboration feature in SharePoint. I can pick the site that I want. There it is. Here's my documents folder. I go in there, and then here's my same workbook. So I can click in there and get into that workbook, make any changes that I want in here. Outside of SharePoint, it's all going to be good. It's all going to get saved to the same spot. It's saved automatically. I get out of here. I can show my changes right here on the online version that I'm in. I see in here also, here's an audit trail on who did what when. So that's very handy dandy if the worksheet is open in more than one person at the same time. So you can see here the very seamless and detailed put together integration that SharePoint has with its other Microsoft products. This is extremely handy in a collaboration environment and always ensures that everyone is looking at the same information, the latest information, and everyone has the same access to all the information that's in your SharePoint site. Next, we'll dive a little bit more into editing in Microsoft Office, both online and desktop apps. So you know where to find information like this in the Review tab where it says Show Changes and you can see what's going on when. So thanks very much for taking this chapter, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to SharePoint Fundamentals. In this chapter, we're going to get a little more involved in editing in Office 365 applications through SharePoint, okay? Okay, so let's just go to where we were in the last chapter. And if you didn't take the last chapter or listen to it, that's fine. We are going to start in the same spot here and talk about how to edit in Microsoft Office applications through SharePoint and through the desktop. Now, if you did listen to the last chapter, what you saw was different ways SharePoint integrates with Microsoft Office. So let's just pick up where we left off. I'm going to go into my Documents section in my Team STECT site. I'm going to go right here into my workbook that I have right in the library from SharePoint. Now you can see here we were kind of messing around. We have some irrelevant content going on in here. So I'm just going to clear that out of there and start from scratch. Okay, so I'm in SharePoint. I'm in my little workbook. I can do in here whatever I want to do. And that's all well and good, right? I'm doing my work. I'm getting my tasks complete. Now, since this is on SharePoint and it's assigned or it has access or many users have access to this, it is more than likely that at some point in time, another user is going to be in here trying to edit the same document that you are. That's okay. You're going to be able to see everything that they're doing, and likewise, they're going to see everything that you're doing. So first, let's talk about what we can see here in Excel Online. So you can see right here, it shows you exactly what you're doing. You're editing. Now, if you remember, or if you look at the chapters that we did on version control and approval requests, this will change if there's another person in the document that has it checked out and you're only able to view it, you're not able to edit it, and you'll see this as view, and then your options will be limited in what you can do, obviously, and you'll get a notification when it's able to be edited again, or you can send a notification to the person who has it locked and say, hey, I need to get in here. Can you get out? Let me do what I have to do. And then you can get back in. So you have a few options right up here. You can also, right from here, open in your desktop application. So some people like to work online and some people like to work in the desktop. The desktop, if you have some custom plugins, they may be more readily accessible to you if you want to use those. So it is actually a common occurrence that people will go in here and just open it up in their desktop application. You're going to see, a few little notifications pop up to let you know, confirm that this is what you want to do. I'm going to say, yes, I want to open this up here. And what's going to happen is my Excel is going to open up. And I'm going to come right in here. Here it is. So I'm able actually to have this open in two locations. Now, I'm the same user, okay? So that's important to know right now. I'm the same user in both applications. So I'm the user in my desktop application, and I'm myself here in the online application. Now, I'm going to say resume editing here so that I can show you what happens when you have the same document opened in more than one location. Okay? So I'm in here, and I'm making an edit. And you can see here, my little tag pops up to show who's actually making this edit here in the document, because SharePoint knows that this document is open in more than one location. Now, if I showed you my desktop window here, I got to share some real estate. So let me make sure I can show you the cells that you need to see. You can see simultaneously what's going on and who's doing it. So if I do something here, I'm going to see it on here. If I do something here, I'm going to see it on here. And you see exactly who is doing what. When there is an edit being made, it may take a second or so to get through to the other application that's receiving the information, but you will always be up to date in what you're looking at. Now, a few other things to note on here. Back in the review tab, you remember here where we saw that information coming in on the side? If you click show changes, you can see exactly who did what. Like maybe you came in late and there's stuff already gone up here. There's already, 3 people in here doing stuff. You want to know what went on over there? No problem. Just click show changes and you'll see that information over here on the right-hand side. You can filter as you need to here. Now up here on top also, there's a button here called catch up. It'll tell you if you're up to date or if by some means of who and when this document was open, you're not seeing the latest information. So this is like a refresh, and it'll make sure that you have the latest information that you're looking at up to date with all the changes that are being made by the other users. Now, let's do one thing. I also want to show you what happens when I am in one application as one person and the desktop application in as another. So I'm going to log out of here. And it's going to take a second. And it's going to ask me to log back in. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to be Tony online. And I'm going to be Christina in the desktop application. Now, I'm still open, okay? So I still have this open here on my desktop, just so you know. Okay, cool. So I'm back in here. I'm TT, I'm Tony, and Tony's going to go on this application now. Okay, so now I get a little bit more information, right? So I got all the same options and visibility that I had when I was the same user in 2 different locations, which obviously isn't how you would normally edit something, but just for showing you all the features that it has here, we wanted to make sure we viewed that transparency status. And you have here right off the bottom, it tells you can go to review, okay, and let's show changes. Let's see what happened in the past. We know all that. That's great. Now you can see up here, CT's doing stuff. So it tells you right here, here's who's doing the work and here's what they're doing. They're right here. They're editing M6. And you can also see us like on my little tag down here. Now, if I go into myself in as the desktop person, I'm CT in here, okay? I see TT, Tony. He's got his hooks in here also. He's over here doing whatever he's doing. And I can see that over here on my desktop application. Now, if you go into review on the desktop application, you'll see here you don't have that option to show changes like you do here online. There's a few different steps you can take to track changes in your desktop application. It involves really just going to the ribbon through Home, More Options, and customizing the quick access toolbar. Now, this also depends, of course, on what version of Excel or Office that you have. So follow your guidelines for your version if you don't see exactly what I'm showing you here in this chapter, but you get the idea. And you can add these three options here through the commands. You're going to select all commands, and you're going to look for these three: share workbook, track changes, and compare and merge workbooks, to enable full sharing and collaboration on your Excel version on your desktop to coincide with the version that's on your SharePoint. Now, regardless if you take those steps to do that or not, it's still the same here. If I'm in here and I'm CT and I'm making changes to this document, and I am in here as Tony or vice versa, I am still going to be able to see real time who is changing what. And I will be able to always see the latest information, and everything that I do on the desktop is going to get saved back to the online SharePoint that is in turn going to be on the SharePoint site. I'm sorry, the online Excel that is in turn going to be on the SharePoint site, real time, regardless of if you're doing it on the desktop or on the web application. You guys get the gist of what I'm trying to explain to you here. So it's always real-time collaboration, always real-time communication, and always the latest information in your shared documents. Okay, so I hope this was useful. It's definitely easy to see who's doing what in any type of document. This same process works for all of Office applications with SharePoint, so you can always see real-time information. Thank you very much for listening to this chapter. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, welcome back to SharePoint Fundamentals. In this chapter, we're going to start to talk about pages. So we've talked a lot about content and navigation and security and how to manage information in your sites. One very important part of your site, obviously, is your pages. And all these pages have a purpose. So we're going to talk about in this phase of the training is SharePoint pages in your site, what they're primarily used for, what kind of content should be on there, how to create a page and change the look and feel of your page, and also change the type of information that's accessible from your page. Now, I know up until now we've talked about the navigation bar over here on the side, and when you're on the home site or when you get into the site, you have the bar also that's on top that gives you some more shortcuts to find additional information, depending on the template that you picked to have your information already laid out for you. Now, SharePoint's always going to give you some kind of default template, right? So I made this team site, and here's my default homepage, and you can see here all this information has already been set up for me. I didn't do any of this. So out of the box, you have a pretty good starting point with SharePoint. Now, what you can do is you can change all this information that's in here. Each one of these different items are called web parts, and we'll walk through how to create those web parts, change those web parts, and really customize all the content that's in there. We'll also talk about how to change the look and feel of your site. So this template really doesn't have a lot going on here. There's a lot of stuff in here, but there's not a lot of color and things to really catch the user's eye. So we'll go through how to make those changes to make the site look exactly how you want it to look and have the right content available for all your users' fingertips, and walk through how to update and modify that information. So meet me in the next chapter. We'll start getting into the details, and let's get learning. Hey everyone, welcome back to SharePoint Fundamentals. In this chapter, we're going to talk about adding a page or creating pages to your SharePoint site. Now, out of the box, when you create a site using one of the standard templates, pages are already created for you with a very basic template. What I'm showing you here is the basic landing page or cover page for a team site that was put together with SharePoint. So the point here is that I haven't done anything to this page. I didn't configure anything. I didn't develop anything. Out of the box, I already have web parts, which is what these sections are called, that have specified content already laid out for me on this home page. So let's talk through this a little bit. So by default, for a team site like this, the web parts that I created for you are going to be divided up in a few sections that have the same type of default information. So for example, on top, the section here is news. SharePoint is mainly used for a collaboration and communication platform, so news is always something that's highlighted or showcased at the top of a SharePoint page by default. Below this, I can see the activity that's happened recently on this site. Now, if you were with me in the other chapters, this content should look fairly familiar. In our last chapter, we worked on the shared documents. Before that, we were in Outlook sending emails. So this gives some high visibility onto some of the actions that were taken recently on the SharePoint site. Now over here on the right, by default, here on the bottom, we have a link to our documents library. The documents library is one of the most popular sections of SharePoint. So again, that's another area that's usually showcased on home pages by default. Now, keep in mind, you can make any changes or customize any of this information at any time. This is just the default settings that SharePoint sets up for you out of the box. Now, for a new team site over here on the right-hand side, you get 2 quick links, and these are worth looking at. So if I click on these just to see what they're about, you can see here some very basic information to give you some directional content on the type of information that's shared on a team page using a modern site. So this is worth the read. This will give you some additional information and direction to show you where to go for any customizations that you may want to make on your SharePoint site. And then your other link here shows you how to actually create a page. So there's a few steps in here that you can walk through and follow and guide yourself in the process of learning how they lay it out for you to add pages and change pages in your site. So these 2 links are really worth looking at. It's directional information. We've been in the Microsoft support documentation in previous chapters. You should have this bookmarked for reference to be able to come here and see what you need every time you want to make some changes. All right, so let's get to it and let's create a page. So creating a page is extremely simple. I'm the site owner, so I have access to all this information to edit whatever I need. Again, make sure you check your permissions so that you have the ability to do what you need to do. If you don't, just contact your SharePoint admin or your IT admin and have them upgrade your privileges. So all I need to do to create a page is right here from the home template setup, click on my new option at the top, and just go down here. You can see the 3rd one down. Right here is page. So let's make our new page. Now, by default, you have 3 templates that you can pick from. You can either start from scratch or pick any of the 2 standard templates that SharePoint has defined for you. Again, keep in mind, you can make any changes to this at any time. So let's start with the basics and let's pick blank. Okay, so here we go. Here's a very basic page. Looks pretty plain, right? We don't have a lot going on here. So we're going to customize this content, add some color, change the look and feel, add some additional links, and have this be something that's really worth looking at. Now, the first thing that you need to do is you need to make sure you have a name for your page, okay? That's required. So let's just call this the new CT site. Oops. News page. All right, let's call it that. I'm fine with that. All right. And then this looks pretty blank up here. So I want to add some color or some images to make this be a little more eye-catching for the users when they come and they land on here. Now, each one of these sections are called web parts, okay? So you see here around each section there's a border. That tells you the size and the shape of each web part. We can change these sizes. We can make this be more than 1 column. We can customize this again to however we would like to see it. And we'll go through all those steps as we walk through the next couple of chapters. All right, so what I want to do here is just kind of add an image, get some color here on my top banner, make it look a little bit better for people to come on. Let's just see what I have available here. I've got some stuff in stock images. That looks pretty good. All right, that one's kind of neat. Let me just grab that. Insert that one right here. Okay, so now I got some colors. This looks a little bit better, okay? Now, so I kind of have a banner here. Now, in the real world, you might want this to be something that's more informational. This would probably be something more aligned to your company logo or, you know, some more information that's branded to what your corporation or your organization is. All right. But for default, we're just going to stick with these stock images. Now, down here in this section, this is just a text entry section. All right. So we're going to keep it basic for right now. In this chapter, we're just going to save the sections that we have in here. And in the next chapters, we're going to create new ones and change these so that you get some different types of content. So for here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know, let's just make this a little welcome banner. Welcome to our new home page for news in our site. Okay. Obviously, I'm not a copywriter, but this will serve the purposes for what we need to do here today. All right, let's just stick with that. Now down here, I don't have anything. So this is just blank space. So I've landed with just 2 default web parts in this blank template. Now, if I wanted to, like I said, we can add content and put more information in here. We'll do that in future lessons. Right now, let's just talk about the look and feel and making sure that we create and save this new page. Okay, so I have my areas updated here. That looks good enough for me right now. I'm just going to take a peek over here, my settings icon over on the upper right-hand side. And I think maybe I want to try and see if I can jazz this up just a little bit more. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom link, here at the very last one that says change the look. If I go in here, I have a couple of options. I can change the theme. Okay, so let's just start clicking on these buttons and see what happens here. Anything going on? Okay, I'm not seeing anything that's giving me any updates to what I have. And that might be because I put an image on here. To save. Oh, no, I see what's going on here. Okay, so I'm clicking in here and I'm going through the themes and I'm trying to make some changes. So things don't look like they're happening right now. Here we go. Okay, so if you click on these buttons, what you're going to see is changes that come to the default template based on just some color schemes that they have here defaulted that you can pick from to make it more look like whatever your organization's color scheme or branding might be. All right. So let's stick with, you know what? I think I'm just going to stick with this. It doesn't look like a lot went on here, but if you look closely, you can see the highlighted covers over on the bars or the sides of the page have changed, and there's some slight differences in the color scheme for the links and the icons in the links used for the default page. So it's a very slight modification, but it really allows you to customize your branding. Okay. All right. So let's make this okay. Let's keep this like this. That looks good. Now you have 2 options. You can either save something as a draft or you can publish it. If you publish it, obviously it's going to be visible to all of your end users. If you save it as draft, it's not going to be the page that's published as the cover page for all your users who come in to see your site. So just like regular web development, if you're familiar with how websites get published online onto the internet, you always have to make sure you publish or set the page to move to production so that your changes can be visible to all of your users who visit your site going forward. Okay, so always make sure you do that. So all the saves happen automatically in SharePoint when you make changes, but you really need to make sure that you click on that publish button and you put those changes online. So we're going to do that right now. And then you have a few options here to allow your users to be notified that there's some new information on your site. And again, this is pretty handy dandy, okay? So let's just look through these. So if you wanted to add this page to your navigation, your global navigation list over here on the left, you would click that. Okay, so then that link is going to come over here. And if you can see here over on the left-hand side, I have a new shortcut to this new site page that I just created. I can post this as news on the site. So this would qualify this as having an extra notification on your site page. You can email this page to your users, let them know that there's some new information they may want to look at. You can communicate with them through Yammer, or you can save this as a page template. So depending on the sections that you put in here, you can save this as a reusable template that might be useful for you as you expand your subsites in your organization going forward. And last but not least, down here you have the page address. You can copy this link and communicate this in a different way than is outlined here to your user base to give them the information that they need. Okay, so right now I'm okay with just having this page as a link over here on my left-hand side. So I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to close this. And that's it. I'm good to go. One more thing I want to show you behind the scenes. If you go into Site Contents and you go into Site Pages, you're going to see here your brand new page that you just created. So if you ever needed to look for pages or maybe find something that you couldn't find through the links or any other action through another page part, if you go into Site Contents, click on Site Pages, you'll see all the pages that are in your site there. All right. Okay, so in this chapter, we walked and talked through creating a new page for your SharePoint team site. We created a new page. We showed how to update the default template that we picked on there and to modify and alter the color scheme that we have for the page. Now, next, what we're going to do is we're going to update some of those content areas. So we're going to create some new sections on that page, put in some more specific content to make it more useful for your users. So thank you very much for taking this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, welcome back. Okay, in this chapter, we're going to customize the page that we just created to add some more content and make it really usable for our users. So I'm on my Team STECT homepage, and since I just created that page, I see it right here in my recent activity. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to make this a little bit more useful. All right, so it looks cool, but there's not really a lot going on here, right? Okay, so let's make something happen. So I'm going to go up here to the right-hand corner. I'm going to click on Edit, and that's going to put my page in edit mode. And you see here what we saw when we created the page, the separation of the web parts that are currently in here. So let's look at this in a little bit more detail. So if I click on the actual web part, I see some icons over here on the left-hand side that tell me what I can do with this web part. So let's look at this. I can edit it. I can change the image. I can set the image focal point, which means if this image didn't span to the full column width of this web part, you can place it in the spot where you want it to be, basically, okay? Or we can just reset to the default image. If we made some changes, we don't like them, we just want to go back to default, we can do that also. Let's edit this web part. Okay, so this looks cool, but it takes up a lot of space, right? And there's not really a lot that is valuable in this section. So I'm going to maybe condense this a little bit. So let's see what my options are. Over here on the right-hand side, I can change the layout. Right now, the layout that is being used is the overlap layout. So let's see what happens if we click some of these other options. So I can click image and title. So that kind of puts the title in the image. Already I like that better. That saves some space and it kind of looks better. So that's another option that I could change to. I can make it plain, so it takes out my image. So if you don't want all of that color on there, you have other content that you want below that's more relevant, you can take out the image to again save more space and make it more condensed. Or you can do something like a block. So that expands the image also, takes up more space, does add the color though. It does have your title over here in the image, but it's in a block format to kind of showcase it a little bit better if you wanted some additional information over here in the block that appears to be embedded in the image. All right, so we have a few options over here. So I'm going to pick image and title. I like that. I like the color. I think it's eye-catching, and I like having the title kind of showing in the image. I think that looks good. It saves me some space. Additionally, you can change your alignment. You can have that title on the left. You can have it in the center. I'm okay with it on the left. You can enter some more text above the title. So if you did that, you could have kind of a, additional piece of information on top of the title if you wanted that. You can place where that text block goes. And you can change how you show the background gradient to kind of alter the perspective of the image. All right, so you can see there's kind of a shading there, and that shading is gone. I think I kind of like it better like that, actually. And then you can enter some alt text, for folks who are disabled or need some help. You can just say this is cover image and add that on there. All right, so let's leave it like this. All right. Actually, I'm getting a little warning message here that this may be affecting some users not so great. So I'm going to put that back to the default where it was. All right, so let's just leave it like that. Okay, so this looks good. I've altered this web part. I'm okay with this. All right, I'm going to click out of it. All right, okay, so I made my changes there. So now let's go in here and do our second one. All right, so I have a little banner here. It says, welcome to our new homepage. Again, nothing really relevant here. This really isn't useful. It's been here for a couple of days, let's say. Everyone knows about it, so I don't really need this anymore, right? I want more relevant content on this page for my users to have. So I'm going to get rid of this. So again, I clicked on it, right? So I have my 3 icons over here that tell me a few things. First, I can move the web part. I can duplicate the web part, or I can delete the web part. Now, if I go out here towards the left, I have some options that I can also do in the section that the web part resides in, okay? So we'll look at these also. I can edit the section, I can move the section, I can duplicate the section, or I can delete the section, okay? So now, if I wanted to, let's say, change the section, let's start outside, all right? So let me click in here, and let me edit this section, okay? Let me get out of here. And let's go here. And you see in here, we have a few options. We can change the layout. Now, what we're looking at right now is a 1-column layout. That means that this section spans the whole width of the page. If you want to put additional content in parallel, but have it be separate information, you can just add the number of columns that you have in that section. And that's really what I want to do here, okay? So I can say 2 columns, 3 columns. I can have one column be smaller than the other one, and I can reverse that and have the left column be bigger than the other one. And then you can also in here add in some shading. So I'm going to pick 2 columns, okay? Because that's what I want to do. I want to separate this content. And you can see here, you get an additional web part action icon here where we're going to actually populate the content of this section, okay? So first let's work on the existing one that we have. So now I have 2 columns instead of 1 column. I'm going to go back here into the original column that I had. So I'm okay with this. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to click in here. And now I'm going to change this web part. Okay. So here's what I want to do. I want to get rid of this. So I don't want this in here anymore. So I have 2 options. I can just delete this. Okay. Now I still have my section here. Okay. So see, I still have got 2 columns, or I could have just changed it. Either way, I would have gotten to the same area, which is the selection of the types of content you can put in your web parts. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, okay? So I definitely encourage you to look through all of these options. They're all grouped fairly clearly. Some of them is online content that you get from the internet. Some of it is content that you have here in your site. And some of it is some custom applications that you can add in depending on what you want to do here on your homepage. Now, what I want to do is I want to add 2 sections. I want to add in the list that we created earlier, one of the lists. I want to put those in here so that people can see it. And let's say my next section is going to be just the world clock. We'll put some time in here. Okay, so we'll make this pretty simple. So I'm going to have a section that has the time so that everybody knows what time it is, because that's relevant for whatever reason on the site. I'm going to have a section to my document library so everybody can access the documents that we have on there fairly quickly. All right, let's just do that. So let's start with the clock. So we'll see how easy that is. So I'm in my web part. I can search through all the categories that are here. I just kind of scroll through what I need. I know what I want. It's called world clock, and I'm going to actually type it in here. There we go. And I have to enter in here a location. Let's just say I live on the West Coast. Los Angeles, California looks good. I see the time right there. That's perfect. And I also want to know on the East Coast. Let's say I have 2 offices in 2 different locations. And this one's going to be New York, New York. Perfect. That's actually what I want to see. Maybe we have a central office location. What do you think? Maybe something, what's in the Midwest? Illinois? Let's try that. Okay, so it's 8:10 over there. Perfect. Okay, so this looks good. I like this. I have my time zones, easy information. That's exactly what I want to see in my web part. That's it. That's all that I have to do, and I'm good to go. Now over here, I want to link it to my document library. Okay, so maybe the salesman, depending on what time it is, need to access documents. It's relevant for my organization. So I'm going to put that section over here in this adjoining column. So I'm just going to search for document, and I can see right in here, I have document library as an option. I'm going to click on that. And I have all the information here that's relevant to my site. So I need to select a document library that I want to add to this page. So let's go in here. And I have a little issue. There we go. Okay. And in my document library, I get in here the default of all the information that's in that section. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. Let me click out of here. Okay, so I have 2 new sections. I have more relevant content in here. Already, this page looks much better. It's much more useful to my team members. So this is exactly what I want to do. And let's go down here on the bottom. What's going on here? I have a comment section. A comment section is something that SharePoint adds to the default template just by default, and it's on. If this is relevant and you want to use this for comments, for a section for your users to enter comments in, that's great. Put it on here. If it's really not relevant for you, you know what? We can turn it off. We don't need it. It's not set up as a regular web part where we can just take it away. But if we turn it off, then it will deactivate it so it's not usable on the page. All right? Okay, so this is good. I've got my 2 sections over here. I modified my top section. Already, I like this page much better. This is great. Don't forget our last step. We have to make sure that we publish it out so that all the users can see it. So I'm going to check republish up there on the upper right. So I have my document section over here. I have my times, my world clock section over there. I can click into it and see detailed information right from that home page. So I have my additional shortcuts and I'm good to go. Okay, so in this lesson, we talked about modifying a page. We looked at how to modify sections and add sections, how to find relevant content and update that information. In the next section, we're going to look at a specific news page. So we're going to go back to the home page that we had, which is a news page by default. I'm going to show you how SharePoint handles editing and updating that type of template. So thank you very much for taking this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, welcome back. Okay, in this section, we're going to talk about how SharePoint handles news posts and news links. Okay, communication and collaboration is important to SharePoint. Obviously, that's the point of the tool. So they put some specifics in how they handle news information or content that's added to your sites via pages. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in a new section to this new page that we've created. And we're going to do two things to that section. We're going to add in posts and we're going to add in links. And you're going to see how SharePoint handles those behind the scenes. Okay, so let's go into our page that we have created here and going on here, and let's make some additional modifications. So I'm going to go into Edit, okay, and I'm going to add a news section in here, and I'm going to put in here my news section. And I have that icon right up here. It's frequently used. I use this a lot. So I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to get this new web part in here that tells me where I can add a news post. All right, so this is great to start off with. That's all I want to do. I'm going to add this. I'm going to click out of here. I'm going to make sure it's saved, and I'm going to republish. Okay, so now I have a section in here where I can add some new news, but there's really nothing here yet for people to look at. So let's do two things. We're going to add some links, and then we're going to add some posts. So we're going to start off with links. So since this is a section, this add button pertains to this section. So let's add a new news link. So if I click on news link, over on the right-hand side, I get my little pop-up, and I can punch in my URL to get to the news site that I want posted on this page. Now let's just say we just want to use some commercial news sites to have on here, just to keep it simple, all right? So I'm going to type in my URL. I know what it is because it's just real easy. And if my keyboard would cooperate, then there it goes. Okay, so there's my link. It's a internet-facing web page, so it already has a title. It already has a description. That's great. If I wanted to add in a picture here, I could. I'm okay with this for right now. So let's just say post. Here's what happens. Now I have the breaking news coming in this page, in this part already set up for me. So I want to add in something else. Okay, so let me pick a new link to add to, and let's just pick another site. There we go. All right, same thing. It's commercial, it's online. My title and my description are already set. I don't need an image, so I'm going to post that, and I'm okay. Okay, great. So I've got two things going on here. I've got two new links on here on my news site. This is great. I have more information and more content. It came right into my site, and I'm good to go. We're just going to do a refresh real quick. And we're going to show that it's active, it's live. I can click in here. And I can get right into these commercial sites directly from these links that are on the home page. And I have more content that's relevant to my users. All right, that's fantastic. Now, anytime you want, you can come in here and you can add some more pages. Now let's look at what happened behind the scenes. So we have two new links in here in this web part section. If I go into site contents and I go into site pages, behind the scenes, you can see that SharePoint actually created new pages that hold that information for that section. So let's just say for whatever reason, you wanted to change these or get rid of these. The way to do that would be to delete this page. So let's just say I don't want this link on here anymore. I'm going to select it. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to confirm that I want it deleted. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to look at my page. And I have that second link no longer there. The first link that I added is there. I can go through the front end interface to add a new link. I can go behind the scenes into site contents to take that link away. Okay? Okay, so let's, now that we've added links to a specific section, let's make a post. Now, a post is a little bit different. Now, even though it handles links behind the scenes also as a page, a post is handled as a page also, and there's more content that you can customize and put in there that probably pertains more to your organization, right? You're probably not going to want to pick links that are outside of what's in your intranet. If you are doing links, it'll be something that's inside your organization. If you're making a post, it's new detail, customized content for your users. So let's do that. We're going to click on Add. We're going to say News Post. And look where we get. We get into that same part or spot where we were before. We're adding in a new template or a new page. That's what a post is. A post is a new page that's really embedded in your home page or the page that you're adding the information into. Okay, so let's pick one of these templates to make it simple. I'm going to take the basic text template and I get this out of the box. So I get this title. I get all these sections that are already created for me. I can put all of my content in these sections. So super simple. All I have to do is select Create Post. There it is. I'm in my page. Okay. Let's just say this is my new post. And this is some basic information to tell you how to navigate through these sections. You can customize this content in here to be the information that you want in your post. That's the idea. Okay, so you have this set up in this template. And then I'm okay with what I have here. Once you've updated all that content in these sections, you're going to post your news. Okay, great. So now let's go back to where we were. Let's go home. Let's go onto our site. And you can see here, it's hard to tell because we really didn't make anything relevant for you to see. The links are now over here on the right, and the post they actually have created is here on the left. So just like when you click in these links, you're going to get into a new page. When I click on this new post, here's what I did. Here's these changes that I did. Here's the actual post. So the post is a page that's embedded in this section, like a link is. You can just put in here more specific content or customized content for what you want your users to see. Okay? Okay, so in this section, we talked about adding news links and news posts to an existing page. So you can see how that information is added and modified in the specific web part section. News posts and news links are treated as web parts. So if you wanted to edit it, you could move the web part, you can duplicate it, you can make all the same types of changes that you can with a regular layout. This is a 2-column layout. You could change that to have it be 1 column or set up in a different way. We learned how to add this information into your existing page. We added links, we added posts, and we customized posts. All right, I hope you found this useful. Thank you very much for taking this chapter, and I will see you in the next one. Hey everyone, welcome back. Okay, so we've learned a lot so far on SharePoint. We've created content, we've created documents, we've linked to Office 365, we've made pages, we've updated pages. We've really done a lot within our sites. What we're going to do in this chapter is actually learn how to create a site itself. So, in addition to editing and updating content in existing sites, more than likely you'll be creating additional sites for your organization. As your organization grows or your areas in your organization use and get onboarded in SharePoint, they're going to more than likely want their own site to communicate and collaborate with and share information with a higher level user base. So what we're going to walk through in this chapter is how to create a site, which is very easy, how to select the right template depending on the type of content that you want to put in your site, and post information that resources in your organization can look at and collaborate on. So I'm starting here from my SharePoint homepage. Okay, so this is my highest level in SharePoint, all the way up top. I'm not in any sub-site. This is my collections page where I have access to all the sites that I currently have created in my organization. Now you can see here right up top, I have 2 options. I have Create Site and Create News Post. So since news post is something that's very highlighted by SharePoint, like we saw in the last chapter, you can create a news post right from your collections homepage, pick the site you want that post to be in, and add your content from there. We've done that in previous chapters, so what we're going to do here is just concentrate on Create Site. So if I click on that action item, right away, I'm defaulted to a page where I have to make a decision. I have to make a decision on if I want to make a team site or a communication site. And it gives you a high-level description here on what each type of site is really used for. We've talked about this in earlier chapters, but if you want to learn some more information, click on the Learn More link that's in there and read through the high-level information that Microsoft offers to give you some additional information to guide you on what kind of site you might want to create. So it gives you some other options in here that you could select as well. What you can do here also, though, is look at specifically what is the difference between a team site versus a communication site, and what decisions should you make to learn which one you should pick. So if you read through this, it gives you really good directional information on what type of site is meant for what the type of uses that you're creating it for. In a nutshell, a team site is for a small group of people who want to collaborate and contribute information on. A communication site would be for larger area of your organization where that group or the department might want to share communications for to have the rest of the organization understand what's going on. So, for example, human resources is a good department to use as an example. The Human Resources Department would more than likely have two sites. They're going to have a team site where all the members who are in the Human Resources Department can contribute information on, update all of their benefits packages information, payroll, everything like that. Everything that they do in human resources. And then human resources is also going to have a communication site where they're going to share information out to the rest of the organization. Your benefits are expiring, upload 401k, annual renewal, all those things like that will go in the communication site. And then the work that they have to do to prepare that action that the organization is going to take, they're going to do in the team site. That's where the team contributes and creates the assets and the information that the organization is going to take act on or needs to know about. Okay. So it's very common for a department in this example to have two sites, one for them to collaborate on and one for them to communicate with. Okay. So this is where you make the decisions you need to make to understand what kind of template to select. In this example, we're going to create a team site. We're going to show you how to pick a template for that team site, make sure your users have the right level of access for it, and are able to contribute the information they need to. So let's go ahead and do that here. So I'm going to click on team site, and I have to give it a name. So I'm just going to call it very simply HR team site. And you can see right away, here's a few things that happen with a team site. So once you make a team, a group is created for all of those members to have access to. So the group email address that everyone in your team will be able to send and receive information from is called HR Team Site, and the site address is called HR Team Site. And you can see here the URL that's getting created for the subsite that's underneath the SharePoint collection for this organization. And then all I have to do here is add an additional site description. And I'm just going to say this is HR content information. And here you want to make sure your privacy settings are right. By default, you really only want the members that you want to contribute to have access to this site. This is your internal information for your HR department. You can change it to public if you want to for whatever reason, but by default, you're probably going to want to just pick private. And then make sure you have the right language selected by default. Click Next. And then here you can add what additional owners and what members you want to be added to the site. So this is important, right? So the additional owner is going to be the person who you're really going to want to delegate the administration of this site to. Now, again, I'm the admin. I'm the SharePoint admin, so I have the highest level of administration authority in this collection. Your team site, someone else in the human resources department, you might want to give them the ability to be the owner to make sure that they have the same access that I do just for that one site. Okay. So I would put that person's email address in here. So let's give this to Tony. Okay. We're going to make him my admin. So I'm going to put that on there, and let's see if we can add some members here. So this uses the Active Directory of the members who are in your organization. So whoever's in here, okay, when you start typing in their email address or their name, they'll pop up as being registered in there as someone to be added to. Now, if you don't find your person on there, then that just means they needed to be added in your organizational directory. Same rules apply. Contact your SharePoint or your IT admin. They'll get them in there so you can add them to this site, okay? So let's just use these two peoples. I've got my owner in here. I've got my member in here. This is great. And I'm going to click Finish. Okay, so here we go. This default page should look fairly familiar. We've seen this in other chapters when we were updating and editing pages. I haven't done anything yet. All I've done is create this site, and I already have all this information set up for me. Now, if you wanted to, you can customize this page, or you can leave it the way it is and just edit the web parts like we did in prior chapters to just change the specific content areas that are already laid out for you here. So I like that. I'm going to leave this like it is. I'm going to add in news and stuff like that when I get my additional information set up on here. And I'm going to leave this as my default for my members. Now let's just look at a few more things while we're here, okay? Since this is a team site, this is integrated with Microsoft Teams. Now we've talked about Office 365 integration in earlier chapters where we can see and share information in Office 365 through our SharePoint site. Another very important Microsoft application is Teams. That's used with SharePoint also. And you see over here on the left-hand side, from here, you can add a Microsoft team so you can see chat real time, and you'll also be able to access this site in Teams. We'll look at that in our next lesson and then take a deeper dive in assigning permissions and access to make sure the right members have the right level of access for this site. So thank you very much for taking this chapter, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, welcome back. Okay, so picking up where we left off in the last chapter, we're going to talk about teams now and making sure the right members of your team have the right access levels for your new site. So when we created this new site over here in our last chapter, we saw here over on the left-hand side, you can add some real-time chat applet location information here. And you can link this site to Microsoft Teams. Now, this is something you're definitely going to want to look into. Just like the other Office 365 applications, Microsoft communicates very well with Teams that's designed to work specifically with SharePoint. So I'm going to bring over my Teams application that I already have set up here because, I have Microsoft applications in other areas. And you can see here I already have a team set up for one of our other sites. Now what we want to do is add this new HR team site to Teams to make sure we can link the site to the team so we give additional options for collaboration within our unit. So we can do this a few ways. You can do this here from the Microsoft SharePoint site that you've just created, or you can do it here from Teams. So let's just look at how it's done through Teams so you can get an idea on how the information is integrated behind the scenes. If you're in Teams, over here on the bottom, you're going to see where it says join or create a team. So if I click on that, I have options to join a team with a code. We're not going to do that in this lesson. We're going to create a team that's actually from specific information. So if I select create a team, I have a couple of options here. What you're going to pick if you're creating a team from a team site that you just created is creating a team from a group or team. Now, if you remember in the last lesson when we created that site, it asked us to customize if we wanted to our team name or our group name that was assigned to us when we created the actual SharePoint site. Now, what that is an existing Microsoft 365 group. So if I click on that, there's my team right here. So it's important to know that when you create a team site, the link to have the SharePoint site available through Teams is Microsoft 365 group. A team link is an option that would be used for a communication site, okay? For a team site, you want to make sure you pick the Microsoft 365 group option. You'll see the team that was created for you or the group that was created for you when you made the actual site. If you want to learn more about it, again, click in here. You'll get into the Microsoft documentation that'll give you additional information. So if I click create here, I would link the SharePoint site to this team. Now, before we do that, let's just go into the SharePoint site itself and see what our options are if we chose to link through here. So if I go over here on the left and I say add to Microsoft Teams, I get this little notice up here that is going to tell me what I'm getting to make it easier to have the collaboration applet over here on the left-hand side. I'm very cool with that. So I'm going to click continue. And it can also give you some additional options here if you wanted to set some tabs in your Teams when you're in there to view additional information. I'll show you what that looks like in 1 second. I'm going to take the recommendations, documents, and the home on the home page. If you had any more information in this SharePoint site and we click through here, you'll be able to see that information here. I don't have anything more in this site. We just created it. So let's just stick with the defaults over here. I'm good with that. I'm going to click Add Teams. Now you can see over here on the bottom left-hand side, it's creating my team, it's printing my resources, it's doing a whole bunch of things. And I'm back here in my SharePoint site. Now, if you give it a second, it's going to update. Okay, I get into my site and you can invite new members, upload files, do more information here in the site. That's great. Let's go look at our teams now and see what happened over here. So here's my teams. Okay, I didn't do anything, but boom, here's my HR team site. Here's exactly what I just did. So I click in there, okay, and here's my information. Clicking in here, you're going to see some additional detail. When we upload files, this will be linked back to the SharePoint site. Right here, more specifically, here's the link to my actual SharePoint site. So this and this is the same location. It's the same piece of information. So now this is great. So now what you can do is add to your SharePoint site or navigate to your SharePoint site right here through Teams. And you can also operate and update content here directly in SharePoint that'll be reflected in your Teams also. Now, if you remember also, we said that we wanted to make sure we linked in the documents location from the SharePoint site into Teams as well, right? So if you click on documents here, I just have one folder in here called General. That's also linked in here underneath the two more tabs. That's underneath Files. When you click in there, here's your same location. This is the General folder. I don't have everything in here yet. Once I put some content in here, if I added a new document, which we could actually just do really quick to show you the link. This is fairly straightforward. It's in here. If I go in here and I click out and I click in, there it is. All right. So you can see here the integration that Microsoft has in between Teams and SharePoint. This is definitely something that you want to make sure you look at and take advantage of to make it very easy to collaborate and communicate within your team site. Now, also what we want to make sure we do is that we have the right members in here with the right level of access, all right? Now, we've talked about this in earlier chapters also. The process is the same when you create your new site. As the site owner, you're going to be able to go in here and add members like we did before, right? So you can find your email addresses that you need to add them in here and assign them specific levels of permissions. So you can make them either the member or the owner over here, and we can change any one of these roles here to kind of make them a different level of access, remove from the group, or upgrade the level of access. Okay, so very easily right from the home page, you can set the default settings for your members to have the right level of access. In the next chapter, we'll take a little bit of a deeper dive in there to show how you can give them an extra level of information beyond this. And then we'll talk about navigating through site settings, search capabilities, and additional navigation options. All right, so thank you for joining me in this chapter, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, welcome back. Okay, so picking up where we left off in our new HR team site, we're going to talk about customizing the permissions for this team site. Now, we've seen this in earlier chapters when we were navigating through how to set security and permissions, and the same rules apply here for the new team site that you created. So we're going to review them one more time to make sure you understand all the specifics. So like we saw in the last chapter, you can go in here and you can see your current members, and you can modify as a member or an owner the level of access that they currently have. You can add new members from your Active Directory to get new people into your site and give them a level of access. Now, what you can also do from the settings icon up in the top is go into site permissions and customize that access a little bit more. Now, if you remember, we saw this to a certain degree in earlier chapters as well. So here you can also add new members the same way that you could on the HR team site homepage, and it gives you additional detail on the default groups that are created. So here you have the owners, the members, and the visitors. Okay, so you can add members to any one of these first level access groups. You can also alter the site sharing and change it by default. Remember, we've seen this in the past as well. And this is how they can share files and share information in the site. Okay. And then you can also, if you have to, send some guest invitations to your organization. Most organizations don't require that, but if you did, you would have the option to enter that information here in this section. Now, if we go into the advanced permission settings, you're going to see the additional options you have beyond those 3 default groups for permissions. So you can see here are the default groups that have been created for you from your team site. You have your team site members, you have your owners, and you have your visitors. And this gives you, again, the permission level of access that these groups currently have. Now, if you wanted to customize this, you could by creating your own custom group. So let's say within these groups, you wanted to have a group that was responsible for designing new content. In here, you would make your group name, make sure you have the right owner on there, and then you can set in here what the settings are for this group. So what you can do here is you can say who can view or change this group. Okay, you probably just want to make it the group owner just to keep it simple. You can define who's allowed to request to join and leave the group, if the requests are auto accepted or not. And then you can down here assign the specific permissions for this group. Okay, so we get into a little bit more detail here other than just, read, write, and share. So to talk about this in more detail, you have full control, which is where they have absolutely full control over everything. They have a level called design, which is view, add, update, delete, approve, and customize information. Okay, so that's a lot. So it allows them to really be the content manager, if you will, of what's in your site, eliminating some of the administration options that are available to someone who has full control. If you give them edit, then they can add, edit, and delete lists, and they can view, add, update, and delete list items and documents. So this takes the permissions down a little bit from the design, where it doesn't give them the options to approve and customize content, but they can modify list information and document information, mainly in the libraries for your site. Okay, so that's really what that pertains to. Now, if you're going to allow someone to contribute, they can add, update, or delete list items and documents. Okay, so that makes sense. They can put information up there and they can take it away. That's going to really be what most of your members can do for the most part, right? They're the ones who you want to be able to put information on there, update it, and change it. So most of your members on this team are more than likely going to have the contribute level of access. Or you can give them read. So read, they're just viewing pages and information. They can't make any changes. They're just there as a viewer for this site. Okay, so it gives you some extra detail. Mainly here, what this gives you is the ability to assign someone design or contribute access. Because if you remember, we look over here, and by default, you can pick full control, edit, or read here, just from the default permissions that you can add to on the members. That's here, read, edit, full control. It's the same thing. If you make a group, you can combine or customize the access levels and add in that design or contribute option to get more definition and more specific in the type of ability you want to give your users in this team site if you really need to separate that out. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. This gives you some guidelines and some directional information on how to add customizations into your groups and permission accesses for your site. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about site settings on a broader scale, get into navigation in a little bit more detail, and talk about the search capabilities within your site. So thank you very much for joining me in this chapter, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, in this last chapter, I want to talk a little bit about site settings and show you where to find some additional options for administration in your site. So we've covered everything on the front end, so to speak, and how to add all your different types of content and pages and informations like that. But there's a lot that you can do behind the scenes or under the covers in SharePoint as well. Now, to find that for your site, what you're going to do is you're going to go into the site contents area. And then from there, you're going to go into site settings. So this allows you to specify additional options for your site so that you can really enhance and expand on the information that you have for your organization. So we're not going to get too deep into these things because there's a lot going on here that you can see. But when you get more experience with SharePoint and you want to do some additional administration settings and expand the functionality and features of your site, this is where you're going to go to do that. Now, this is broken up into a few different groups, okay? The look and feel up here are the options that you can make to your navigation elements and your quick launch toolbar. We've gone through these in earlier chapters. So this is the same area and the same location where you can make modifications to your navigations for your site. You can change the order, change the links, and customize your information there. The navigation elements is over on the left-hand side. Again, this is where and how you can enable the quick launch if you want to see it in tree view, or just whether the quick launch should be shown or displayed at all to aid in navigation. So you have those options here as well. Here's where you can also change the look. We've gone through this in other chapters also. This gives you a more expansive view of the templates that are offered, where you can change your color schemes and really make this more along the lines towards the branding of your organization. And you can see here the different types of sections that they have defined here for administration. You can take site actions. There's collection administration. So if you wanted to make alterations or updates for the entire site collection for your organization, this is where your SharePoint admin would do that. There's a whole section here on searching in SharePoint. Searching in SharePoint is actually quite expansive. And if you go in here and you customize or modify search settings, what you can do is really tailor or define or confine the results that an organization or a team might find in their search queries. This is definitely something that you want to look into. What you want to look into is something called the Microsoft 365 Search Center. And in the documentation for Microsoft, you can see pages of information that can give you some detail and again, direction on how to customize the search for your site, depending on how you want to steer or navigate the results that your site collaborators or communicators want to see. So there's a lot of value to looking into that and streamlining the behavior of your search results so that you know, depending on what the definition is for that site, they're going to get relevant content. That's very important for searching insights, so you can make sure that all your resources can find the accurate information. You're going to see in here some other designer gallery options here, and again, some settings to really be able to optimize and update administration for your site. So this gets fairly advanced. So as you get more comfortable with working in your SharePoint sites beyond this fundamentals class, you're going to want to look into these details and really learn how to optimize and enhance your content. All right. Okay. So I hope you found this useful. Thank you very much for taking this chapter. What we covered here is where to find additional site settings in your site to be able to customize information. There's a lot of information here and a lot of options that you have, so I encourage you to take a deeper dive into each one of these sections, consult the Microsoft documentation for additional information, and keep your site growing for your organization. Thank you very much for joining me in this chapter. Hope you found it useful, and I'll see you in the next one. That concludes our program. Thank you very much for taking this course with us. You learned a lot here. We hope you enjoyed this course here at Learnit. Thank you very much for taking it with us, and have a great day.